Money. We use it every single day. But have you ever really stopped to think about what it is and where it came from? Well, today we're going to do just that. We're going to explore the absolutely epic journey of money, all the way from ancient bartering to the digital code that's probably sitting in your crypto wallet right now. Let's get into it.
And this, right here, this image perfectly sums up the problem money was born to solve. On one side, you have the ancient system of barter. I mean, it's direct, sure, but it's incredibly clunky and inefficient. And on the other side, this seamless, almost invisible simplicity of a modern digital payment. The story of how we got from point A to point B is honestly a fascinating tale of human innovation.
You know, for most of human history, trade was a pretty simple affair. A direct exchange. You've got a fish, I've got a basket of fruit. If we both happen to want what the other has, great, we can make a deal. The famous economist Adam Smith called this barter, and it was really the first step on the long road to what we think of as money. But as you can imagine, as societies got bigger and more complex, the cracks in this system started to show. Big time. Yeah, barter has some pretty fundamental flaws. First off, you need what's called a double coincidence of wants. I mean, what are the odds that both people have exactly what the other person desires at the exact same time? Then there's the issue of value. How many of your goats is my bag of wheat worth? That's totally subjective and it could change tomorrow. And finally, a lot of goods just aren't divisible. It all turns into a logistical nightmare pretty fast.
This right here is the classic example, and it just perfectly illustrates the problem. You can't exactly give someone a leg of a living cow in exchange for a loaf of bread, right? It highlights those two key issues we just talked about, the lack of divisibility and that double coincidence of wants. I mean, the baker might not even need a cow in the first place. It was all this friction that really pushed humanity to find the better way to trade.
So the first major breakthrough wasn't actually a physical object. It was an idea, a promise, the IOU, or IOU. And this was absolutely revolutionary. It allowed people to trade even when the goods weren't available at the same time. A farmer could promise to give someone a cow in the winter in exchange for some wheat right now in the summer. It totally separated the timing of the exchange. But it introduced a brand new and absolutely crucial element, trust.
An IO is only as good as the person who wrote it, right? To solve this whole trust issue, people started turning to physical objects that everyone just sort of agreed had value. We're talking about things like cowrie shells or even salt. In fact, salt was so valuable it was used to pay Roman soldiers, which, fun fact, is where we get the word salary. Eventually, this led us to the most durable and prized materials of all, precious metals.
And this brings us to one of the most crucial functions of money, being a store of value. Gold and silver were pretty much perfect for this. They don't spoil like grain does, they're relatively rare, and you can easily store and carry your wealth around. For their time, they were the ideal physical solution to the problem.
Now, stamping those metals into coins made trade even easier, but of course it created a whole new problem. Rulers would often debase their own currency by mixing in cheaper, less valuable metals, and people caught on pretty quick, which led to something called Gresham's Law. The basic idea is that bad money drives out good. People would hoard the pure, valuable coins and spend the junk ones, causing the less valuable money to flood the market.
So even with coins, carrying around large amounts of your wealth was still pretty dangerous and just impractical. I mean, can you imagine the risk of trying to transport a fortune in gold? The solution was brilliant in its simplicity. Leave the heavy metal in a secure vault and just carry a receipt for it instead. And that receipt, well, that was the birth of paper money.
Once paper money hit the scene, the pace of change just exploded. This timeline shows some of the key moments. You know, back in the 16th century, a massive flood of silver from the Americas poured into Europe, causing crazy inflation and economic chaos. Then you fast forward to the 20th century, and with the world in crisis, you see the dramatic collapse of the gold standard. Money was becoming more and more abstract, slowly getting detached from any physical thing.
For a long, long time, this was the system. Your dollar bill wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a promise. It was basically a claim check for a fixed amount of actual physical gold sitting in a vault somewhere. This was the gold standard, and it anchored the value of money to a real tangible, precious commodity.
But during the Great Depression, that entire system just shattered. Nations all over the world abandoned the gold standard, and money went through its biggest transformation yet. It became what we call fiat currency. Fiat is Latin for let it be done. Its value is no longer backed by gold, but simply by government decree and, most importantly, our collective trust in that government. The money in your pocket has value just because we all agree it does. And this gave governments immense new powers, like the ability to print more money to influence things like inflation.
And the abstraction didn't stop there. As technology surged forward in the 20th century, money began its next great disappearing act, morphing from physical notes and coins into the purely digital world of ones and zeros.
This, of course, led to the rise of things we all use today: credit cards and digital banking. These innovations solved modern problems of convenience and speed. Suddenly, we didn't need to carry wads of cash anymore. Transactions became faster, way more convenient, and could happen instantly, anywhere on the globe.
So how much money is out there in the world today? The estimate is around $80.9 trillion. And here's the part that's truly mind-bending. The vast, vast majority of that money doesn't exist as physical cash. It's just digital entries in computer ledgers, numbers on a screen being zapped around the global financial system.
Which brings us to the latest and maybe the most radical chapter yet. In 2008, right in the middle of a global financial crisis, an anonymous creator or creators unleashed a brand new idea: Bitcoin, a currency that exists only as encrypted data, with no country, no central bank, and no physical form. This was a massive philosophical shift away from the centralized control of governments and banks towards a decentralized network that anyone with an internet connection could access.
Okay, so how on earth does it work without a bank? It's pretty complex, but here's the basic idea. First, a buyer starts a transaction. Then, that transaction gets bundled up with a bunch of others into something called a block. Then, people called miners use super powerful computers to race to solve a really complex math problem to verify that the block is legitimate. The first one to solve it gets rewarded with brand new Bitcoin.
Once that block is verified, it gets added to the blockchain. Now, the easiest way to think of the blockchain is like a giant, public, digital receipt book that everyone can see. Each block is cryptographically chained to the one before it, creating this long chain of transactions that is incredibly secure and pretty much impossible to alter.
So there you have it. We've gone on a journey from bartering actual cows to trading digital code on a blockchain. Each and every evolution of money, from physical shells to abstract trust to decentralized code, was created to solve a problem with the system that came before it. So the question we're left with is, what problem will the next evolution of money solve? And what in the world will that even look like?